on to the second week of the Porsche Pro qualifying series, and we head ourselves over to one of the newest tracks on iRacing. It's a track that many people have known if they've ever grown up really being a part of virtual online motorsport, but it's a track that became a part of the iRacing family back in 2018. There's a little hint on the screen. Welcome to Japan. Welcome to Tsukuba circuit here for the Porsche Pro qualifying series on RaceSpot TV, streaming live as ever on the iRacing eSports network. Now, last time out, it was Max Benecke who got himself the victory. It was a horrible day for Fredrik Rasmussen, but it's worth remembering that Freddie Rasmussen won the Friday night Strength Field race, which was able to get him the most points for the first week. Benecke's already had the opportunity to do a race here in week number 2 of the Porsche Pro qualifying series, and he actually does lead the championship right now. 2 weeks counted, 764 points. Enzo Benito has done 2 weeks worth of racing, and he's got 714. Fredrik Rasmussen falling back a little bit, and he's got 709 points in third. Jared Filsell, we saw him have a second place finish in the first round of the championship. That was, of course, at Belle Isle. He came home fourth place currently in the standings. Sebastian Job in P number 5. So, scene is set, qualifying is underway, and here's a look at the track conditions. 25 degrees Celsius, 29% relative humidity in the air. It's windy out there, 17-18 km/h winds, but it's cloudy, so that means the track temperature should be nice for these drivers. Let's hand it over then to the commentary team of Connery Maddock and Jack Stiles to get the action underway. Connery, over to you.
Thank you very, very much, Will. It's the second week of the Porsche Pro qualifying series. Tsukuba circuit as well. Newest track here on iRacing, and what better way to give it a fantastic stage than the Pro qualifying series here, Jack. We've got a couple of cars that are still out there on qualifying laps. You see on the left-hand side of the screen how the qualifying has turned out so far, and the driver that I do want to be keeping a close eye on here is Sebastian Job, because he butchered his first lap, shall we say. He's on his second of 2 qualifying laps right now. This is where it really, really counts, Jack.
Sebastian Job, obviously a very quick and capable driver. He's won himself a place to head to Mexico in the coming days for the Race of Champions, winning the online version of that. So he is a very capable driver. Riding on board with him currently as he heads himself up to the right-hand hairpin. Of course, Tsukuba is not a long circuit, Connery. It's 53 seconds a lap, and for a lot of these drivers, it's going to be a circuit they know very well, obviously from previous sim racing experience. As we see Sebastian Job himself into this tricky final corner. This final corner, it's a very long and dragging corner. David Nowoski putting himself up third in the timing standings with a 53.341. What could Sebastian Job do? He goes second place, I believe. He does indeed, at just 200ths off of pole.
Really, really playing with the off tracks coming out of that final corner, so he's looking to get his time up onto the board. A driver that hasn't set a lap time just yet will be the likes of Ivo Howler, Lauren Heinrich, Niels Koch, Alexander Voss, and Moritz Lochner as well. We're riding on board with Lochner as he gets his way through the turn number 10 and 11 hairpin, and then it's a pretty straight, not the turn 11, sorry, the turn 5 and 6 hairpin in towards the turn number 11, 10 and 11 sort of section right now as you head yourself towards this latter part of the lap. You go through the right-hander under the Dunlop Bridge, and then you've got all your run all the way down. This is basically a track full of hairpins. You've got hairpin turn number 1, 2, hairpin turn 5, 6, and then you've got turn number 10 and 11 as well. So that is the slow speed nature of this circuit right now, but this is where you do need some of that straight line speed all the way down towards the final corner and across the pit straight as well. Moritz Lochner has to... This is a corner where you're just waiting so long to try and get yourself on the throttle because the corner is so fast but also so long as well. Across the line he'll go, and it's only good enough for P number 16 on the grid right now. So as qualifying is starting to tick down a little bit, but thanks to the short lap times here, Jack, you don't really have to worry about going over the time limit if you do want to take some time and do a couple of outlaps before you go for your all-out qualifying.
That is the case, and one driver who's taken that opportunity is the driver you're currently looking at on your screens, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ivo Howler. This is his first lap out. The Pure Racing Team driver, the number 17 machine here today, is going to head himself down this long back straight into the final right-hander. Very hesitant on the throttle he's got to be. Very slowly putting the power back through those rear wheels. A lot of power. No traction control, no ABS. Running it very wide. It's good enough for a 53.413. That puts him 11th in the standings.
Yeah, it does. We're still... Well, actually, everyone so far has set themselves qualifying times. It's just a case of who out there has another lap to be able to work with. I believe Alexander Voss, driver number 2, has another lap to work with, and he's actually coming towards the end of it right now as he gets himself on the entry to the final corner. So what can the Williams Esports driver do to try to improve his qualifying position up from P number 22, where as he comes across the line, that is going to be a massive improvement, a 53.366. Good enough for P number 6 briefly before he gets knocked down to P number 7 by Niels Koch. That is a fantastic lap there from Voss.
An absolutely fantastic lap, and just a slightly better one by Niels Koch. Lauren Heinrich as well. He's improved his lap time to go 12th position in the number 6 machine. There should be 1 or 2 drivers left out on the circuit as the qualifying actually comes to an end, and we're going to head ourselves down onto the race start grid.
Yeah, close run of things there right at the end of the qualifying session. But this is what your grid looks like for round number 2 of the Porsche Pro qualifying series. Fredrik Rasmussen, pole position 53.265, followed closely by Sebastian Job in P number 2. Kamil Franchak will get P3 on the grid with David Nowakowski, Patrick Holtzman, and Niels Koch, bringing things down to P number 6. Row number 4 will consist of Alexander Voss and Marin Kolak, with Ayhan Shenguven and Ricardo Castro-Ledo rounding out your top 10 on the starting grid. Then you've got David Williams and Lauren Heinrich bringing things down to P12, with Alex Simonich, Ivo Howler, and Alexander Thebe bringing things down to P15. You've got Bobby Zelensky, P16, with Gianni Vecchio 17th. We've got Jared Filsell be wanting more after that qualifying, starting in P number 18 after his fantastic result in the first week. But we've got Kim Eriksson, P number 19, Moritz Lohner, P20, Jake Hewlett, Sebastian Dunkel, Matt Buser, and Jake Burton will round out your 24-car starting grid here today at Suzuka. So drivers will be heading their way to the grid now and looking for that short run down towards turn number 1 for the first time. Can be pretty tricky on these first couple of laps, Jack, with such a short circuit and so many cars.
It's going to be a very quick and frantic race, this one, I believe. Belle Isle had its moments, the tight, twisty corners of the island in the middle of Detroit, but here it's a completely different beast with the even shorter lap and a very, very tricky section of corners in some places.
Exactly. We are all set then for round number 2 of the Porsche Pro qualifying series, waiting for those green lights, and they will show, and we'll get racing here at Tsukuba. Fantastic start from a few rows back from Alexander Voss, making it 3 wide down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. We'll have to sail for 2x2 instead coming through there, but your front runners have gotten themselves away pretty good. But the thing is, Niels Koch, oh, that's Holtzman! Oh, Holtzman hits the barriers coming down and towards the turn 5 and 6 hairpin for the first time. Another huge incident for Holtzman at the start of one of these strength of the field races. Jared Filsell's barrel rolling down the track as well, the number 7 driver. So huge moments already.
Yeah, Patrick Holtzman, replay on your screen. You can see there was a slight touch on one of the Williams Esports machines. We've also lost Ivo Howler as well on the exit of turn 1. There's Jared Filsell, the Trans-Tasman Racing driver, going head over tail in his number 7 machine. Back to live pictures we go. We're focusing on Alexander Thebe down in 15th position, the number 14 machine, and switching to this battle between Lauren Heinrich and 1 or 2, in fact 3 of the VRS Quantum Sport drivers. Around the outside, Heinrich tries to go. A little bit of contact, I believe, with himself and the number 8 machine, and that is of trying to fly. We've got a driver coming down through the order. That's Lauren Heinrich. David Williams has got past, and we're still seeing a very good battling early on in this race.
A gaggle of Coanda drivers, a gaggle of Williams Esports drivers with Altus Esports also thrown into the mix as well. So lots of congestion here in the mid-pack of your field as they get down into one of the right-hand hairpins. These guys are following each other so closely. I remember mentioning at the end of the last race, that Tsukuba circuit, this is going to be more like a touring car or a sort of your standard club series race with how much close racing and how much potential contact that we'll have here. But here comes Alexander Thebe down the inside of what's going to be Morris Lona there, coming through the final corner. But Lona will have another chance to look at his way back down the inside at turn number 1. But that is going to be covered pretty admirably by Thebe, as these guys are all stacked up in your midfield. This is really close racing.
It is very close racing up in the midfield. Up at the front, we've still got a train of 6 cars for the leads. We see the positions on the top of your screen starting to appear. Everyone may be trying to settle down, thinking we've still got 25 minutes left in this race. Let's not go too crazy just yet, but the early gains will benefit you later on if you can hold the positions that you manage to gain up. Still focusing on Lauren Heinrich. Alexander Thebe is now putting the pressure onto Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky is the third of 3 VRS Squad SimSpot drivers in this race, Connery. A very strong showing from this team today.
Exactly, they're all running pretty close together on track as well, just helping each other work through the traffic. But Thebe has a fantastic run coming off the final corner here. But the thing is, down in towards turn number 1, it's just such a short run, such a short racing circuit. They can't capitalize on good runs out of the final corners down these straights, because the straights simply aren't long enough. Down in towards turn number 5 they'll go as Lona gets spat out towards the outside of the circuit, and he'll have to battle here with Alex Simonich instead, coming through turn number 7 and turn number 8, but he manages to edge himself ahead. But he's already lost a good couple of tenths of a second to the cars ahead. Down in towards turn number 10, that's an absolute send there from Gianni Vecchio behind. We didn't quite catch it on our screens, but that was a huge outbreaking attempt there from Gianni Vecchio. A bit of contact coming through turn number 10 and 11, but I don't know how everyone survived that.
I'm not sure, and I think we're going to get a better view riding on board with Gianni himself. There was, I think, a little bit of contact with the driver of Alex Simonich, and Simonich was just left to the outside. Very big wiggle from Vecchio. There was more contact on the exit of the corner, Connery. It was a very eventful one. Back to live pictures we go, and looking for the battle for second position. This is between the G2 Esports driver of Sebastian Job and between Kamil Franjak in third. Job's holding the position for just a little bit, but this battle is letting Freddie Rasmussen get away at the front of the field.
Yep, it is. Franjak going very deep into the hairpin, taking a much shallower line in towards turn number 10 than Sebastian Job was opting for there. So different lines being taken by these drivers, trying to find where the speed is out there on circuit, and Franjak is making a good amount of time, at least on this lap. He did lose about 2 cents of a second last lap, but on this lap he gains, but still very marginally, a half a tenth of a second. But at a track with sub 1 minute lap times, a half tenth of a second is still a decent chunk.
It's also interesting to see that the fastest lap of the race isn't for our race leader, Freddie Rasmussen. We've got contact. That's involving Lauren Heinrich. That's involving David Williams. No, it's not. I think it might even be Ricardo Castellado. It is. So Castellado's in the walls again, riding on board with the Frenchman, heading down into turn number 1. This is where the incident happened. I believe at some point we should see a Williams Esport car pop into the fray. I think he might be coming down the inside of your screens. And into the walls they go.
Yeah, that was Lauren Heinrich on the inside. Did get squeezed in the middle of the corner a little bit. When it came to corner exit, though, Heinrich did get a little bit of an oversteer moment. He basically had the track out to try and save the car there, but it just so happened that Ricardo Castellado was on the outside. So an innocent passenger in that one was Castellado. So that's the second race, or second broadcasted race in a row that he has had major issues. But looking at just inside of your top 10 positions here, we've got Ayan Shanguva, we've got Marian Kacholak hanging out back there. But further forward ahead of those guys, you still have a decent train, this time getting up towards P number 3 now. So these guys have closed up right at the front of your field. So soon enough, we'll have a train from P number 1 all the way down to what looks like P number 6 out there on circuit.
And that's very similar to what we had at the start of this race, and it is now going to be such the case. going all the way from Freddie Rasmussen down to Niels Koch. It's interesting to see that we've got Alexander Voss and Niels himself, both for Williams Esports, running line astern behind the Triton racing machine of Dave Nowoski. So watch out for Voss and Koch making their way through the field, working as a bit of a team, Connery, just trying to get as many positions and as many points as possible.
Yeah, that is the aim of the game, not necessarily to finish on the podium, but just to get a decent chunk of points where in these races where it really, really does matter with the strength of fields. But as of right now, no one in this train quite close enough to make a move up in towards turn number 10. But Alexander Voss is definitely going to be the driver that's on a charge right now. A couple of tenths of a second taken out of David Nowakowski last time by. And through the final two corners, they will go then. And Voss looking for the run off this corner, but it's such a difficult corner. You just, as I said in the qualifying match, you're just waiting to get on the throttle, and then you finally get on the throttle, but then you realize, oh, it's only a short run down towards turn number 1, so that advantage is somewhat cancelled out. But as they head their way into turn number 5 now, Voss, you can just see he's really trying to work that car on the racing circuit. The behavior of that car is just screaming to me aggression.
He wants that position. You can see it in his driving style as we focus back on your race leader, Freddie Rasmussen, leading by just over a second from Sebastian Job. And Alexander Voss, you might be able to see him in the background, he's really pushing that car. Last time around, he was quicker than the driver of David Nowoski, only by about a tenth, but it's still an extra tenth that you are going to need around this circuit.
Voss edging his way closer to the car ahead. The gap at the front of the field, though, is standing at around about 1 second there. You can see it on the relative timing. You can also see Sebastian Job, last 3 laps, he has edged his way forward, but this is just a case of Freddie just managing the gap back to his teammate right now. I doubt if these guys even get the opportunity to go side by side that they will do it in any sort of dangerous fashion. They know how big these sorts of races are, so they don't want to ruin the race for each other. But the guys further back, though, they have no such allegiances. Looking on board, though, with Moritz Lohner as he tries to chase down Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky has done very, very well in this race so far. He's up 5 positions on his qualifying, but Moritz Lohner, he's also up 8 positions on his qualifying. So those drivers that started nearish the back of the grid have really, really made their way up through the field and gotten themselves to a more representative position for their pace.
We have also had a couple of incidents which have taken some drivers out of this race. We've lost 5 drivers so far from the event as Heinrich looks to the outside into turn number 1. I have a feeling the driver of Zelensky got a slightly better line, slightly better run off the corner. He has indeed. Heinrich still looking. Inside he goes into the hairpin.
Moritz Lohner trying to challenge into the hairpin, then just very, very close to the rear bumper of Zelensky as they hit their way onto the Dunlop Bridge through turn 7 and 8, and that is the first sign of Lohner getting very, very aggressive with Zelensky. He went so deep on the brakes, attempting an outside move down into turn number 1. That time it's unsuccessful, but the thing is, I get the feeling he'll have a few more opportunities yet.
Yeah, there's plenty more opportunities coming for him. 20 minutes remaining in this race. We've hit 1/3 distance as we see behind Gianni Vecchio putting pressure onto Sebastian Dunkel. Dunkel racing for I can't remember the team name now, forget it. But Vecchio, that's it. SRO really looking into turn number 1. He's just not being able to get the move. And I have a feeling that this is one of the things about this track is it is tight and twisted, but it's also not very wide in some places. And that does really limit your availability of being able to stick it up the inside and try and make a pass.
It's definitely one of the concerns that you have to think about when you try to plan your next move over the car ahead of you, as Vecchio had a pretty terrible middle sector that just drops off the back of Sebastian Dunkel, but Lohner in the battle ahead is not dropping off the back of the VRS kind of SimSport driver ahead of him up towards the final corner. You can just see Lona just peeking his way, looking for the looking towards the inside, but this is a corner where you definitely cannot do that. You just have to wait until turn number 1 if you want to have an opportunity. And now we're going to see a dive again from Lona, or is he going to stay line and stern? He's just going to stay in line for now, but still go very deep on the brakes and taking a very, very wide mid-corner there, which I'm not sure if that was the plan for Lona, but he's still there, still ready to pounce, looking for the inside. You could just see every single corner entry is going, ooh, can I go down the inside now? No. Can I go down the inside now? No. And he's just sizing him up at this stage.
I feel like from the view that we're getting on the screen that Moritz Lona is looking at the inside to say, come on, Bobby, make a mistake. Just give me that slight chance. And we haven't seen that from Bobby Zalenski. He's been very solid in that position. We've seen a couple of slides, but you're always going to see that with this car because of what the characteristics of the car itself. As again, you can see looking back from Bobby Zalenski. Moritz Lona getting the two Williams Esports drivers confused. He's still looking, even though it's not there, as into turn number 1. Again, inside line, going offensive, but Zalenski, solid as a tank.
What would you say here to sort of this aggressive driving from Lona? Because you could say that he's losing time on entry to the corners here because he's looking for the inside but not committing to the inside. So that's just going to compromise the rest of his corner. He might even be best served just only going for that sort of dummy when it's actually possible for him to head his way down the inside. But outside is chosen for turn number 10 and 11 here by Lona, but he's not got the momentum, not got the speed to carry it around the outside. But this does set him up pretty nicely. We do have some trouble behind, though. That was Sebastian Dunkel falling back through the field, but Lona still right on the back of Zalenski coming through the final turn, as we get the replay of Sebastian Dunkel, and he gets spun there by the car behind, but coming down in towards turn number 1 on the live pictures. Lona looking for the side-by-side, as we'll let that replay peter out. But Lona now, he's obviously got the pace in clear air over Bobby Zalenski at this point, but Zalenski is just making his car the most difficult thing in the universe to try and get past.
It's almost as if Zalenski is preempting Moritz Lona's lines. You can see Lona get a little bit loose on the corner exit there. Maybe showing the tyres are starting to give way. 30 minutes on this set of tyres. This nice soft rubber might be starting to take effect. A little bit of loss in grip. That could be the case as they head themselves down into the final corner to the 15th time. Lona still looking to the inside. But again, Zalenski, he's just covering the line and doing a perfect job. Replay up on your screen. This is of the move. Here we go. This is Gianni Vieccio making contact. He's spinning actually out of the final corner. That's a very rare mistake from Gianni.
Back to the live pictures, Zalenski and Lona side by side now down and towards the left-hand hairpin, and the 13 of Lona on the inside with the VRS kind of SimSport car. Zalenski on the outside. They will continue their side-by-side battle up and towards turn number 7 and turn number 8. But finally, Lona has managed to make his way past, but this isn't done because Zalenski's positioned himself for the outside at turn number 10, trying to hang it around the outside there, but completely unsuccessful, and he's still going to be close coming off of the corner here, so he might just have a look down towards turn number 1 to try to reply on that move. But the thing is, Moritz Lona, he's messed up the final 2 corners here. Very, very deep on entry. Manages to get the exit, though, but that was a very, very scary moment there for the German driver, and now he's pretty securely ahead. So if the theme that we've been seeing over the past couple of laps is true, we'll see Lona pull ahead.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that is what's going to happen. Bobby Zalenski, not sure whether he has the pace to keep up with the driver. Looking at the number 2 machine, this is of Alexander Voss, putting the pressure onto David Gorwowski. This is the battle for 4th position overall, so the place just behind the bottom step of the podium. Voss, not close enough at the moment to make a move, Connery, but you can see running through that final corner, potentially has a slightly better line than David Gorwowski.
Slightly better, a marginal gain across the line, but is still not quite enough for Alexander Voss is it's been pretty much throughout this race the Williams esports drivers having to make up positions, and it's the same in this particular case as well. So close to the back of Nowakowski coming through the turn 5 and 6 hairpin, but Alexander Voss will just have to wait to try to fight another day, trying to work every advantage he has over the course of the very short lap we have here at Tsukuba. But out of turn number 10 and 11, not going to have the run required. As this battle for P number 3 and coming through P number 3 and going down to P number 6, starting to look closer lap by lap by lap. The front two are pulling away. Fredrik Rasmussen and Sebastian Job, both for G2 Esports. So G2 Esports really looking to get themselves a fantastic finish here in the race today. But the battles further behind from P number 3 and back, though, those still have a huge question mark hanging over them.
Yeah, we probably won't know for another 13.5 minutes as to which way around that is going to finish. Of course, you can see riding on board with David Nowakowski, the number 20, forwards to Kamil Franjak. You can see just how hard he's pushing to try and close the gap, but having the pressure behind of Alexander Voss as they head themselves into the right-hander hairpin for the 19th time. I think it's just a case of Nowakowski's more worried about what's behind him than ahead. Alexander Voss looking to the inside, looking offensive. Nowakowski moving to the middle of the track just to say, yes, I know you're there, and you're not coming through this time. And no, he will not indeed, as they head themselves across the line once more time.
Yeah, this race is based on time rather than the laps, so we'll have very many laps, shall we say, in this event. We're just dipping under 13 minutes remaining in this one, still riding on board with Alexander Voss, and again, he's going to be pretty close in towards 5 and 6, but it's just such a marginal thing where you can be that close, but you just need to be just a little bit closer every single lap if you're going to decide to commit one way or the other. Outside, inside, doesn't matter coming down into some of these hairpins because you can make the pass either way. But Voss now coming out of what is going to be the turn number 10 and 11 hairpin towards the final couple of corners. Then Alexander Voss, he's carrying much more mid-corner speed than Nowakowski, but Nowakowski's absolutely nailing his exits here, and that is going to be important for him going down the pit straight as Voss takes a shallow line in towards turn number 1, brings himself to that rear bumper, but just can't get it alongside. He just has more of a fascination with his bumper than going side by side at this moment in time. Yeah, and I think that's it's either a tactic of leave it as late as possible or trying to scare Dave Nowakowski into a mistake as they head themselves under the Dunlop Bridge. You can see on your screens on the left-hand side your biggest movers and shakers of the race so far. So you can see how it is shaping up. Everyone in the top 15 actually hasn't lost any places, Connery, and that just shows either we've lost people out of this race or people have just been moving forward. And in fact, everyone who I believe is still running has gained places, which is always a good thing to know, and people are moving forwards. Yeah, exactly. So if you've kept your car on the grey stuff so far this event, you're more likely than not to gain positions. But we do have the retirees. We've got Gianni Vecchio, Patrick Holtzman, Lauren Heinrich, Ricardo Castroledo, Jared Filsell, and Ivo Haulo. They're saying that Heinrich is still out there lapping, albeit 13 laps behind. So he has a couple of positions to gain here before the end of the race, but no major positions at all as we look at battling a little bit further back. That's P number 12 and 13. Bobby Zelensky trying to defend from Alex Simonich this time. So Zelensky, after gaining those positions very early on, is starting to fall back through the order somewhat due to some of the faster drivers that had bad qualifying times or had troubles early on in the race coming back in these late stages. Yeah, Bobby Zelensky is obviously one of these drivers. I believe he's actually more used to ovals, as we see the number 18 machines, Alex Simonich, taking a much tighter line through 10 and 11 that time, Connery, showing that maybe Bobby Zelensky's struggling for grip. You can never quite tell with this car. It's a very unique car in the way it drives, and it's a very much a driver's car, and it's an absolutely brilliant car to drive. And I wonder whether Bobby Zelensky is someone who's used to a car which is very much hands-on. He's excelling in this, and Alex Simonich still putting on the pressure as well as they head themselves into turn 1 and 2. And Zelensky actually gained marginally last time by, so still has a ton of pace behind that Vieresco and the SimSport Porsche, but on board once again with Alexander Voss and the David Nowakowski brick wall that he can't seem to scale, at least over the past, I would say, 10 laps at this point. Again, gaining a 1/10 of a second on that last lap, but he just can't gain that sort of time really where it counts, and he's going to be a little bit further behind now coming across the start-finish line as that 10th just swings back into the favor of David Nowakowski. So this gap is just swinging either way pretty much every lap, and it's just deadlock between these two drivers right now.
I'm seeing the gap at around 4.5 tenths at the moment, and it seems to be staying pretty constant throughout the opening stages of this lap as they head themselves into turn number 7. Alexander Voss catching marginally, but it's only by about 1/2 tenth. It's not enough, Connery, and time is really starting to run out. Just 8 3/4 minutes left. You'll be surprising how quickly that goes when you're, especially when you're in the heat of a battle. Niels Koch still on the back of this one. Pictures back onto Bobby Seletsky and Alex Simonich now as they head themselves into 10 and 11, riding on board with the number 18 machine. You can see Bobby Zelensky back to that inside line. Very tight. You need to be around that corner to get a good drive off onto the back straight. And the gap sitting at about 3 and a bit tenths, and Simonich still not close enough to challenge.
Yeah, the Vendaval sim racing driver of Simonich still looking for the position, although he does have a little bit of front end damage on the front right of his Porsche, and he also pushed a little bit wide there coming through the final corner, which doesn't exactly help things. So Alex Simonich is carrying a bit of damage here. The right hand rear arch is exposed on his car, so you would have thought, okay, that's going to be affecting the car aerodynamically, but the thing is, aerodynamics really don't matter at a track as tight and twisty as this one, but it's still something to think about, and maybe might be a slight bit of wheel damage or suspension damage that he has to deal with as well, which isn't giving him 100% confidence in the car. But looking from the back of David Nowakowski right now as he heads his way across the line, still keeping Voss and Koch very, very much controlled and behind him. He's doing a fantastic job of managing the gap and just the defensive driving coming into the corners as well, and it just doesn't give Voss an open door to try and sneak his way through.
And that, you can see the lap time comparisons as well. Last time around, Novakovsky was faster than Alexander Voss, so the pace is still there for the Triton Racing driver. The gap now 1/2 second. It's growing, Connery. I do not know whether Alexander Voss has quite got the pace to be able to put himself down the inside. We're moving back just slightly, and we're going to look at the battle between Arjen Guven and Marin Kolak. This is for position number 7. It's a battle that's just come up onto our screens. You can see lap 24, Marin Kolak was nearly a second quicker than the driver of Guven, racing for Team Redline.
Kolak looking for the late race charge as we're 6.5 minutes from the checkered flag being displayed out there on circuit, and that's still going to be about 7.5 laps due to the 53-54 second lap times that we have here. So still lots of laps of racing action to go, just not a lot of time to be able to do it in. But looking back to that battle for P number 4, Voss going deep on the brakes into 10, but he's just not finding these exit speeds, and that's what Nowakowski has been able to do lap after lap after lap. Voss can gain all his time on entry, but he's just sliding the car out slightly on exit, and it's really, really hurting him when it comes down to the next braking zone.
Yeah, and I think for Voss, maybe a little bit too much of pushing is going involved with this car. You can push or you can over push. You can see he is gaining just slightly into the first corner. The gap's now back down to 4/10. So Novakovsky having a bad run through the opening section of corners here, Connery. We could see the battle reignite. Will Voss be able to put it down the inside? We will not know. His best chance now will be into the turn 10-11 chicane, heading themselves through the right-hander underneath the Dunlop Bridge. Just 5 minutes remaining in this event now, and you can see Alexander Voss, he is closing and closing very, very gradually, but it's still not enough. And even with his teammate behind, his teammate is helpless at this point, because he's just got to sit and watch and then pick up the pieces if anything does go wrong.
Yeah, that's the strategy if you're Niels Koshin right on the back of this battle. But Voss, again, fast through the middle of the final turn. Not so much on the exit as into one. He'll take his characteristic shallow line down into here, which has been working into there. So you multiple and alternate lines through turn number 1 and 2 really do pay dividends if you get it right. But again, in towards 5 and 6 instead, Voss trying to press his nose to that back bumper, and he's going to be very close into the chicane this time. So this is probably finally the chance that Voss will have down into 10. What does he do? He looks for no way around, either inside or the outside. Now Kowski just parking his car in the middle of the racing circuit, forcing Voss to make a decision, and he didn't even make a decision, so he'll have to wait. But how much time does he, how much time does he waste here? Because you've got 4 minutes remaining and 5 laps. Still enough time to get this pass negotiated, but the longer you spend behind a driver that you feel that you're faster than in terms of overall lap time, the more frustrated you're going to get, and the more chance of a stupid decision that you'll make.
And as the time ticks down, the pressure builds even more just to get those extra few points. That could be critical come 8 weeks' time at the end of this series, when we decide which 20 drivers go through to the World Championship. And for Niels Koshin behind, he's just sitting there twiddling his thumbs thinking, well, I'm either going to be finishing in 6th or I'm going to be finishing in 4th, because there's going to be a monumental accident between these two guys. You can see, again, through 10 and 11, Alexander Voss really closing down the gap, but Novakovsky has got the drive through the corner and drive off of the corner onto the straight, which Voss just hasn't quite got.
Closes up through the start of the final corner, but it's the same story that we've been describing over the past couple of laps. Now Kowski able to get those exit speeds to try and pull himself away and try to put a damper on the danger coming from behind. So Voss running out of time, running out of laps to try and make this one work. And some would say, oh, maybe let Niels Koshin have a go behind, but Niels Koshin isn't quite close enough to this battle just yet to have that as a possibility. So the status quo will be maintained once again. And then into towards the right-hand hairpin, the turn number 10 hairpin once again, this must be so frustrating as a driver, Jack, because you've driven on a higher level than I have. You're more active in the actual racing out there on circuit. How annoying is this sort of situation that Voss has got himself in? I mean, for me personally, it must be infuriating.
Yeah, it is exactly that. It's one of those situations where you just have to sit there, be patient, and wait for the moment to come for you. It almost came then through turn number 1. Very almost. There was a little bit of an inkling of a gap from Novakovsky left open. You can see as they head themselves into turn number 5 and 6 that the driver, Alexander Voss, is really closing the gap. And you can see how hard they're both pushing. The grass on the track being kicked up every single lap under the Dunlop Bridge. But as it just goes on, as we get closer and closer to the end of the race, Alexander Voss is going to be more and more anxious to get this move done. And if he can't, I can tell you myself that any driver would be disappointed if they can't get the move done.
A slight oversteer moment off of 11 there for Voss is not going to help things at all on their way into the final corner, but a slow final corner for now. Kowski might just put him under threat, but manages to recover somewhat coming on the exit of the corner. And Voss, he just can't do anything. It's seeming like he just can't do anything right now because he's gaining in all of the wrong places around the track. He needs to sort this out within the next lap and a half, otherwise he's going to be destined to finish in P number 5.
And we have got one more lap after this one, ladies and gents, so there will be more chances for Alexander Voss just yet. We've still got 40 seconds before the time limit runs out, so Freddie Rasmussen, our leader, will cross the line before that happens into turn number 10 and 11 this time. Alexander Voss still looking, still can't get away around. Novakovsky is solid in that position, Connery. My honest opinion is I think Alexander Voss won't be able to get past, and if he does, it's going to be an absolutely last-minute move into turn number 10 and 11.
This is the final lap. White flag is going to be out there on circuit, so this is the last-ditch effort, arguably, for Voss. You can just see how deep on the brakes he goes in towards turn number 1 and 2, but bringing himself back to back to the back bumper simply hasn't been enough. 5 and 6 now, still no opportunity for Voss. Now Kowski slightly slow coming through the middle of the corner, but it's all going to be recovered on exit as he's been doing lap after lap after lap. Here comes Voss then. Turn number 10 might be the area he decides to go for it, but look at that. And Kowski parking his car in the middle of the track, defending the inside line as well. Very, very well defended from the driver of the 20. Freddie Rasmussen comes out of the final corner, frustrated about dropping points at the start of the week, but this one on Saturday is all Freddie Rasmussen's race. He wins here for round number 2 of the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series 1-2 with Sebastian Job. Voss versus Nowakowski. Nowakowski comes out on top in that particular battle, managing to defend for P number 4 as the rest of your runners will head their way across the line. No battles to speak of further down your fields as they all cycle themselves past. But wow, those final stages of the race there, the battle for P number 4, it was annoying that we didn't quite get side by side, but that was a fantastic effort from Nowakowski to keep Voss behind, who's one of the strongest drivers here in these GT type machines. But Nowakowski just giving him a lesson in defensive driving.
And Voss did go for the lunge into turn number 10. He very nearly made it work, but Nowakowski was just, nope, you're not coming through. I'm going to sit on the inside, and that was the end of it. Coming into the final corner, turn number 12, Alexander Voss had nothing that he could do. Nowakowski, that was it. He was on the final run to the finish.
Yep, he was. Here are your official race results for round number 2 of the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. Freddie Rasmussen makes it a 1-2 finish for G2 Esports with Sebastian Job. Kamil Franjak able to get the final step on the podium, with David Nowakowski successfully defending his position to finish in P number 4, with Alexander Voss having to settle for a top 5 finish. Niels Koch watching that battle from behind throughout the final 15 or 20 minutes, finishes in P number 6, but Ayanchan Guven finishes P number 7. Marin Cholak, P number 8 for him when all is said and done, with David Williams getting himself inside the top 10 after finishing P number 9. Alexander Thieb is your last driver inside of that top 10. Moritz Lohner gains 9 positions up into P number 11, with Bobby Zelensky gaining a decent chunk as well, up into P number 12. Alex Simonich finishes where he started in P number 13, with Sebastian Dunkel 14th, Matt Buser 15th, Jake Burton there in 16th place after starting right at the back of the grid. Fantastic run for him. Kim Eriksson, P number 17, Jake Hewlett, P 18, and then you have your retirees at the end of this event. Lauren Heinrich, Gianni Vecchio, Patrick Holtzman, Ricardo Castroledo, Jared Filsell, and Ivo Howler. So we're going to take a very, very short break here on RaceSport TV on the iRacing Esports Network. Don't go away because it's the post-race show after this.
We're done. Get going.
Frederik Rasmussen's win here today moves him back into second place in the championship. Drivers, 20 or so, looking to punch their ticket to the Porsche World Championship Series with $100,000 worth of prize money on the line. Worth noting, Max Manecke did not take part in this. He elected to race on Friday night. He still leads the championship, 764 points to Frederik Rasmussen's 755. Now, this afternoon's race points have been taken into account. Will Vincent here, along with Connery Maddock and Jack Stiles, to wrap things up. The strength of field was 7,242 for this afternoon's race. Compare that to last night, and yes, for the second week in a row, it was a little bit lower. We did 7,387 strength of field yesterday. What it does mean, for those of you wondering, in terms of Frederik Rasmussen, he got himself a total of 383 championship points. Compare that to Max Manecke in the race that took place yesterday. Actually, it was Enzo Benito who won the race yesterday. I take that back. He got 388 points, did Enzo Benito. So, you know, we talk about the fact that every point matters. It, well, quite clearly does. Even though there is only 5 points in it, the gap between P1 and P2 in the championship is only 9 after 2 races have been scored complete. Of course, though, this season is still young. And next time out, we head ourselves over to Twin Ring Motegi for the 3rd round of the championship. But, Conor, I just want to talk about, you know, this race, because there's been an update, of course, coming into this, and a lot of drivers have said that it made the cars even slippier, and you somehow managed to do a 30-minute broadcast without mentioning the slippy Japanese tarmac, but it is a factor here.
Yep, of course. You know, we didn't mention it in the race, so it's only well and good to mention it right at the end as well. But yeah, just the different manufacturing process that the Japanese use for their racing surfaces does mean that the grip is much more limited out there than it would be on some Western racing circuits. But there was also another change to the Porsche Cup car that meant that the tires took a little bit of a while to come in, a little bit sketchier coming off of the corners, and that just makes David Nowakowski's defensive effort much more impressive, if it wasn't already impressive, if these cars are as sketchy off the corners as some drivers are saying.
Yeah, and Jack, it's worth noting, of course, we've got a Friday night race as well as the race that we have in the afternoons on Saturday, which are the 2 highest strength of field. Unfortunately, we were already kind of booked on a Friday night because of Friday night prime time. We wouldn't want to disappoint the viewers for the Formula Renault 3.5 Championship, who we are covering for the season, but it seems like everyone's going to run at least twice. They want to get their points on either Friday or Saturday. The way it works is they can run as many times as they want. However, it is their top 25% result that is counted. So most drivers will not run more than 4 races.
Yeah, I'm just looking at how many starts that some of the drivers have had since the very start of this series, just last week. And I'm looking at Maximilian Benecke. He's had 3 starts. He's had 1 win and 2 top 5s, and he's top of the standings. So he's been very consistent up at the top of the standings, scoring good points. Freddie Rasmussen in second. He's had 8 starts and 6 wins. Now, that's obviously, the strength of field is going to play into that one, affecting how many points he's going to get each time he goes out onto the track. But the fact that he's got over double the amount of starts from Max Benecke really shows the different approach that some of these drivers are taking. I'm just looking, the driver of Marin Kolak's had 9. David Williams, who's just won the place out of the final qualifying pace in 21st, he's had 10 starts. So some of these drivers are going for the, let's do as many starts as possible, let's get as many points as possible, and hope that we get some good runs and some good points. Whereas you'll see some of the drivers, the likes of Max Benecke, Enzo Benito, Alexander Voss, Jeremy Bouteloup. Bouteloup we haven't actually seen in one of our broadcasted races so far. Well, in the last couple of weeks, Will, but he's in 10th. He's had 3 starts and he's had a win, so he's got 595 points. So he's still one of the contenders that is going to be strong going into the latter stages, I feel, of this series. But we haven't seen him yet in this very SOF race.
Yeah, indeed, sir. And it's also worth noting that if you do more than 4 races in a week, what essentially happens is they'll average out your 2 best results. If you're on more than 8 races in a week, it'll then be the average of your best 3 events. So knowing the fact that the strength of field races that we have on Friday night and Saturday night pay many more points than the other races that go on over the course of the week, it's always advantageous if you get a good result to actually then just stop running. But Connery, drivers who are coming home in, you know, just outside of your top 10 in these broadcasted races, they have nothing to lose because they're getting themselves about 183 points for 13th, 199 for 12th. Now, that's about the same as if you'd be running in about a 3,000 strength of field race and winning it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So for the drivers further down the field, it's more of a calculated risk taking more and more races, even going over the 4 races and having to take the average of your best 2 races or average of your best 3 races once you get past that point. So it's a great plan if you're just on the cusp of getting yourself in towards the top 20. But if you're one of those drivers at the front, like Beneke, like Job, like Rasmussen, then doing more than 4 races is basically just not a risk that you want to be taking, because you're going to have, you know what, it's like 1, 2, 3 bad races, and then all of a sudden your average just drops off a cliff, and you're losing more points the more races you do.
Yeah, and just to give you an update, the second split here today won by Josef Falkgren. He got himself 286 points for winning that second strength of field event that had 4,549 strength of field. And if you want to compare what points he got compared to a race winner from today, of course that was Fredrik Rasmussen, he got himself 120 odd points less. However, Falkgren, with his 268 points, that would have been enough for him having P number 8 in this broadcasted race. So there's a lot of different variables that go on outside of our 1-hour broadcast here on the iRacing Esports Network. But of course, next week, Connor, we head ourselves over to Twin Ring Motegi. It's a track which, you know, has been racing the formerly Verizon IndyCar Series. We'll probably be calling it the NTT Data IndyCar Series by Wednesday if the rumours are true. Famously, that track, the first ever win of Danica Patrick, that was on the Oval in 2008. But Motegi is a bit of a tough animal. The first sector is actually pretty boring, stop-start. Then you go through like very flowing middle sector, and then you've got a perfect bump and run opportunity at the end.
Yeah, you really do. We're actually racing on the East circuit there for Twin Ring Motegi, so not the full GP circuit, which is just another element that these drivers have to deal with. It's not a track that is run all that often here on the iRacing service. Usually when you see it, it's the full GP circuit and things like the IMSA series, like in the iRacing Le Mans series, etc, etc. But for the just for the East circuit, that's a little bit of a change that you just have to consider when you come in towards next week. So I don't think it's going to change much. You'll see the same drivers pretty much at the front of the field as you're always used to seeing, but it just requires a little bit more preparation from drivers further behind.
Yeah, and Jack, if we were talking about a pit stop in this event, then actually the East Circuit's far more complicated because you've got that really tight final corner hairpin that you have to navigate around. However, the key thing for me would actually be the start of this event, because rather than going into turn number 1 on the normal Grand Prix layout, which is a double apex right-hander, you're going into a 90-degree corner, and that track funnels down very, very quickly through the right, then the left, then pretty much going through some of the inroads almost of the Motegi kind of like layout.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the track map of the East Circuit, and that run down to the first corner, it's downhill, it's got a wide section of track, as you said. Well, you're going to be running about 70% of that front straight. If you're towards the rear of the field, might be a bit more like 75-80% of that main straight, and you're going to go down the hill. That right-hander, always a very good passing opportunity. The first corner of a race is going to be hectic, and as you said, underneath the bridge, and then getting onto it is going to be very tight and twisty as they go around, cut off the actual Grand Prix section, the Grand Prix pits, and the first few corners on this track, and then to rejoin the circuit for the fast uphill sweeping as they go back under the oval and back up towards that final hairpin. And that final hairpin is very tight and twisty, and then the pit entry for this circuit is even tighter. So if anyone does have to make a pit stop at some point in this race, they've got to be super careful, and you are going to lose a lot of time on that, even just on that entry, because you've got to slow down so much to get the car around.
Don't forget, we still got lots more racing to come here on Racesport TV and the iRacing Esports Network this weekend. You can still check out the 2.4 hours of Daytona. Join Jake Sperry and Justin Prince for that one. Close Work E-Series powered by DGFX. Round number 1, Daytona. It's all about Daytona in January, unless you're in the Neo Endurance Series, when instead you're going to go over to Suzuka. Next week, of course, we've also got the 24 hours of Daytona and the 3rd round of Twin Ring Motegi. And just a quick word on that 24 hours of Daytona, Connery. It's going to be a huge event. You know, racing into the dark. It's actually the longest 24-hour race that happens in darkness. And then, of course, you wake up, breakfast with Will and Connery, and into the sunrise.
Yeah, that'll be basically what is a historic event for iRacing, the first iRacing special event with the day-night transition feature. It's going to be absolutely incredible, just for the whole atmosphere of a 24-hour event, having that sun go up and down, and of course all the racing that goes with it. And if we have a finish as exciting as we had last year with that last lap turn number 1 dive for the race win, then I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah, I almost feel like when I say breakfast with Will and Connor, I just need to invite you over and actually make your breakfast before we start commentating. We'll work on that one. That's all we got time for, though, here today on the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. As ever, thank you, Iswan Bala, TrackCams22.com, Andres Warner and One Design for overlay design, development, Simon Grossman, Engineering.com, live timing as ever, Nick Bissam, Racesport TV, live timing and scoring. That is all we have time for here today on the iRacing Esports Network, but we'll be back same time, same place, Twin Ring Motegi. There's still a long way to go in this Pro Qualifying Series. Goodbye from Tsukuba Circuit, and we'll see you all next week.